Hi friends, today we are going to learn about exception filters in MVC. So, exception filters in ASP.NET MVC are a type of filter that allows you to handle exceptions that occur during the execution of an action method. These filters allow you to catch unhandled exceptions and apply custom logic such as logging the exception, redirecting to a specific error page, sending custom error message to the client. Exception filters are useful for handling errors globally across an application for specific action controllers. By implementing exception filters, you can provide a centralized way to handle errors and provide a better user experience. Key points about exception filters. Global error handling. Exception filters provide a centralized way to handle exceptions that occur during the execution of an action methods. Custom error pages. They allow you to redirect users to custom error pages based on the exception type or other criteria. Logging. You can log exception details for debugging, monitoring purpose. Now we'll see how to create a custom exception filter. You can create a custom exception filters by inheriting from the iExceptionFilter interface or the exception filter attribute class. When an exception occurs, the onException method is called, where you can write your custom error handling logic. So, example of custom exception filter. See, look at here, we have a custom exception filter class and we are inherited with iException filter, and we have a one method which is onException. It is implementing iException filter. In the debug.writeLine, so we can write our own logic whatever we want. An exception occurred, filter context dot exception dot message. So this is log the exception details for debugging or monitoring purpose. You can log more details about the exception such as the stock trace, source, etc. See, we can write like this: debug.writeLine stock trace filter context dot exception stock trace. Mark the exception as handled. Filter context dot exception handled is equal to true, and we have assigned with true, and redirect to a custom error page. So when any exception happen, then we can redirect to the error page. Filter context dot result is equal to, so we have created with the new keyword object redirect result with the home controller error page. So in this example, on exception, this method is called when an unhandled exception occurs in the action method. We log the exception details in this case to debug.writeLine and redirect to the user to an error page. Exception handled. Setting if file filter context dot exception handled to true prevents the exception from propagating further. It won't cause a 500 server error or a yellow screen of death in MVC. Redirecting. You can change the result to custom action or a view. In this case, we are redirecting a custom error page. Applying the exception filter. You can apply a custom exception filter to a controller, an action globally across your entire application. Applying to an action, you can apply the exception filter directly to a specific action using the filter attribute. See, we have a home control here and we have a method called index, that is action result. So we are applying custom exception filter. Applying to a controller. You can also apply the exception filter to an entire controller, affecting all actions in that controller. See, we have to apply like this custom exception filter above the home controller. Applying globally in filter config.cs. So to apply the exception filter globally, you can register in the filter config.cs file. This will ensure that the filter is applied to all actions and controllers across the application. So here we have to apply like this new custom exception filter. So we have to register here like register global filters. Built-in exception filters. ASP.NET provides a built-in exception filter called handle error attribute. This attribute is used to handle exceptions globally or at the controller action level and provides basic functionality for showing a custom error view. Handle error attribute. The handle error attribute is applied to the field controller or actions to catch exception and display a custom error page. It is used for basic exception handling where you want to display an error view, error CSHTML when an exception is thrown. So example of using handle error. So we have to apply like this attribute handle error above the controller, or we can use for action method also. By default, the handle error attributes display a view named error.cshtml. When an exception is thrown, the error view can be created in views shared folder to handle errors globally. Example error.cshtml. So we can create like our own error page. Sorry, something went wrong. We are unable to process your request at the moment. Please try. This is our own logic. We can create in error.cshtml page. Handling different exception types. You can use exception type property in handle error attribute to handle different types of exceptions differently. Handle error exception type. So type of, we can create our own divide by zero exception view, divide by zero error. Handle error exception type of is null reference exception, view null reference exception, sorry, null reference error. We can use our different types of errors. In the example, in the index action throws divides by zero exception, which would be caught and handled by divide by zero error. Exception filters and global error handling. In ASP.NET MVC, you can also implement global error handling in addition to using exception filters. This is typically done by configuring error handling in the web config file using the application error method in global.asx page. So this method is invoked whenever an unhandled exception occurs in the application. So in global.asx page, application error exception equal to server.getLost error. So debug, so log exception or handle it, debug.writeLine exception.message, redirecting to a custom error page. This provides another layer of error handling that can be used in conjunction with exception filters or in its own for handling application wide exception. So summary of exception filter. Exception filters are used to catch exceptions that occurs during the execution of an action method. You can create custom exception filters by implementing the iException filters interface or inheriting from exception filter attribute class. The onException method is where you handle exception and define custom logic like logging, redirecting to error page. The handle error attribute is a built-in filter for handling exception and displaying a custom error view. Exception filters can be applied globally, specific controllers, or to individual actions. Global error handling can also be implemented in global.asx page or web config to catch application wide exception. So friends, this is all about exception filter in ASP.NET MVC.